Welcome to Diversity's 2020 Personal Income Tax Series. Today's topic is personal income tax for students. My name is Eric, a volunteer at Diversities. The purpose of this video is to help you get a better understanding of preparing tax returns for students. Let's get started. First of all, we would like to thank our sponsors for their generosity and support, which include the Guardian Law Group, James Wong Financial Limited, Calgary Chinatown Lions Club, and Elena and Eric, CPA, CA. Diversities is a renewed expression of our long term vision, a welcoming home for immigrants where Calgarians of all ethnic origins are meaningfully engaged in the community. Please note that Diversities does not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before preparing any tax returns. This video is specifically produced to help students who have received a T2202 tuition and enrollment certificate for 2020, received a payment from their RESP or the COVID benefit, Canada Emergency Student Benefit, CESB, or if you are 19 or older so that you are eligible for your GST/HST credit. If the student has employment income or other income, the student should also watch the Personal Income Tax for Working Forces video. In today's video, we will discuss the importance of filing your tax return, Form T2202, tuition credit, the transfer tuition amount, taxable and non-taxable income, CESB and scholarship, EAP, ways to file your tax return, and what to do after you've filed. Even if you don't owe any income tax, as a student, you should still file your income tax before April 30th each year because many federal and provincial benefit programs use your income tax return to decide if you're eligible for benefits, like, for example, the GST/HST credit. Your tuition paid during the year can reduce the tax you or your parents or grandparents owe now or in future years. The CESB you received is taxable, but was not taxed when it was paid, so you will need to include it in your income. Also, if you receive payments from your RESP, you will need to file your tax return. Lastly, if you worked at all during the year, regardless if you earned a high income or not, you can still build your RRSP limit for your future, but only if you filed your tax return. The most important document for students to claim tuition credits is the T2202 issued by the university, college, or educational institution certified by the Minister of Employment and Social Development Canada, that is the ESDC. You must have a T2202 in order to claim or transfer a tuition credit in a tax return. If one was issued to you by your old school, you may download it from your school website. A T2202 will be issued to you if you were a qualifying student and enrolled in a qualifying or specified educational program full-time or part-time. At a minimum, the educational program needs to last at least 3 consecutive weeks and requires a minimum of 10 or 12 hours of instruction or work in the program each week, excluding study time. If you think you qualify for a T2202 but did not receive one, you should check with your school directly. Information included in the T2202 are the number of months you were a part-time or full-time student and your eligible tuition fees in the year, among others. Please note that the tuition fees shown in T2202 are based on tax year, that is January to December, and not by school year, September to April, and are prorated for the courses you took in 2020. For example, the fees you paid in late 2020 for your January 2021 courses will not be included in your 2020 T2202 because they are courses to be taken in 2021. These fees will be included in your 2021 T2202 to be received in February of 2022 instead. Please also note that not all fees you pay to the school are eligible for T2202. For example, student association fees, health and dental insurance, transportation and parking, meals and lodging, etc. are not eligible. Also, the education and textbook credits are no longer available after 2016. Both the federal and some provincial governments provide tuition credits to students. Our focus will be on the federal tuition credit, as many provinces, including Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, have eliminated their provincial tuition credit in the recent years. The federal tuition credit is a non-refundable credit, meaning if tuition amount is greater than tax owed, you won't get a refund from the claimed amount. Eligible tuition fees include the amount on Form T2202. Certain examination fees paid may also be eligible. Since the tuition credit is a non-refundable credit, you will only claim the amount to your tax owed. If there is any unused portion, you may either carry it forward to future tax years to reduce your tax, or you can transfer the amount to your parents or grandparents, to your spouse or common law partner, or to their parents or grandparents. The first step to claim your tuition credit is to fill in the T1 Schedule 11, which looks like this. The schedule can look complicated, but is actually quite easy to fill. We will walk through some of the items. Information to be included in Schedule 11 are your tuition amount, which is the amount included in the T2202 you received, plus any eligible examination fees. Since the examination fees are not included in T2202, you will need to keep all the official receipts for them. Any unused tuition amount carried forward from prior years. The amount is included in your 2019 Notice of Assessment issued by the CRA after you file your 2019 tax return. The tuition amount you are claiming in the current year. How much you are claiming depends on your taxable income. Remember, the tuition credit is a non-refundable tax credit. There is no refund if you claim more than your tax owed. You also need to file the number of months as a part-time and full-time student in the year, which you will find on boxes 24 and 25 of the T2202. After you calculate the unused amount, you will need to decide if you want to carry forward the amount to a future year when you have income, or to transfer the amount to someone so that they can claim the credit on their current tax returns. There are limitations on who you can transfer your tuition amount to and how much. Let's go over them on the next slide. If you decided to transfer your tuition amount instead of carrying it forward for future years, please note that you can only transfer the amount to your parents or grandparents, to your spouse or common law partner, or to their parents or grandparents. The maximum tuition amount you can transfer is $5,000. Since the tax rate applied on the tuition amount is 15%, your transfer can lower their tax payable by up to $750. That is $5,000 times 15%. Please also note that you can transfer your tuition amount to only one person each year, even though that person can be different year over year. Also, you can only transfer your current year tuition amount. You cannot transfer your unused tuition amount from previous years in the current year. For example, say you have a tuition amount of $6,000 in 2020 and you decided to transfer it to your mom. Since the maximum amount you can transfer is $5,000, only $5,000 is transferred to your mom. The remaining tuition amount of $1,000 will be carried forward to your future year. If you have no tuition amount in 2021, when you're filing your 2021 tax return in 2022, you cannot transfer the unused tuition amount from 2020, i.e. the $1,000, to anyone because you can only transfer your current year tuition amount to someone. However, you can use this $1,000 tuition amount to lower your own tax if you have income. To transfer your current year tuition amount, you will need to include the amount to be transferred in Schedule 11 and complete and sign the back of the T2202. You will then provide the recipient a copy of the transfer section of the T2202. The recipient will include the amount you transfer to them in their tax return. As a tip, you will only transfer the amount the person can use since it is a non-refundable tax credit. You want to carry forward as much unused amount as possible to use in your future year. The back of the T2202 includes two sections. One is to certify you were enrolled in an institution certified by the ESDC, and the bottom one is for transfer of the tuition amounts. You will need to fill in the bottom section for tuition amount transfer. Here, you will name the person you are transferring your tuition amount to and the amount under the federal tuition amount. There will not be any provincial or territorial amount for Albertans starting in 2020. Even though students can no longer claim federal education and textbook amounts, you may still be able to carry forward those unused amounts from previous years to another year. As mentioned earlier and on the previous slide, most of the provinces have eliminated their provincial tuition credits in recent years. The provinces which do not provide provincial tuition credits are Alberta, starting in 2020, BC, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. We have covered one of the most important elements of a student's tax return, which is the tuition credit. We will now briefly talk about the common taxable and non taxable income for students. As a general rule, a Canadian resident is required to report their worldwide income. No matter where your income is earned, you are required to report it on your Canadian tax returns. However, not all money you received is taxable. Only the taxable income needs to be reported on your tax return. Examples of taxable income for a student may include the payments from your registered education savings plan payments, that is the RESP, which is called the Educational Assistance Payment, EAP, the CESB payment you received during COVID, scholarships if you are not a full time qualifying student, employment income if you worked while studying, tips and other occasional earnings and investment income, including bank interest. Examples of non taxable income, which means you do not need to pay tax on or include in your Canadian tax returns, are GST, HST credits you receive, scholarship or bursaries eligible for the scholarship exemption, lottery winnings, and most gifts and inheritances. Let's go over some of the taxable income in a little bit more detail. If you receive payments from the CESB in 2020, you will receive a T4A slip. You will need to include the amount under other income on your tax return. In regards to scholarships, scholarships from elementary or secondary schools are not taxable. And if you receive the scholarship from your university or college, it is usually not taxable if you are a full time qualifying student in 2020. 2019, the prior tax year, or 2021, the following tax year. If you are not a qualifying student, only your first 500 is tax free and the remaining is taxable. If you file your tax using an income tax software, once you enter the information included in your T2202 to the software, it will determine if your scholarship or how much of it is taxable based on the information from the T2202. Education Assistance Payment, or EAP, is the amount paid to you from an RESP for your study. EAP includes the Canada Education Savings Grant, CESG, the Canada Learning Bond, CLB, amounts paid under a provincial education savings program, for example, the Alberta Centennial Education Savings Plan grant, and the earnings on the money saved in the RESP only. It does not include the contributed amount made by the contributor, for example, your parents. You will receive a T4A for the EAP amount received, and the amount is taxable. If you earned employment income or other income in 2020 and want to know how to file this income, please refer to our tax video for working families. There are different ways to complete your tax returns. You can hire someone to file it for you. For example, you can pay H&R Block or an accountant to prepare your tax return. Or if you're a low-income taxpayer, you can use the free tax clinic in your community. This year, Diversities is partnering with CPA Alberta to file tax returns for low-income individuals and families for free starting March 1st. Please contact Diversities for detail and eligibility. Or you can prepare your own tax return either online, on paper, or by phone. Let's go over each option. To file your tax returns online, you will need a tax return package. Some of these tax return packages are actually free to use. On the next slide, we will show you the list from the CRA website. Previously, we were able to go to the post office to pick up a paper copy of the tax return form. However, the post office does not carry the paper tax return form anymore. Instead, you can call the CRA for a copy. Or, if you filed your 2019 tax return on paper, the CRA will send you a paper copy of the 2020 tax return form automatically by mail around mid-February. Lastly, you can also file your tax return over the phone. This is a new filing method introduced by the CRA recently. Please note that this option is only available to those taxpayers with low or fixed income and have received an invitation from the CRA. It's a service that lets you file your return by answering a series of short questions through a secure, dedicated, and automated telephone service. No matter which method you choose to file your tax returns, please remember that it is your responsibility to file your tax return each year. The CRA is introducing something new for students this year. If you need help filing your 2020 tax return and you're a student with modest income and a simple tax situation, CRA volunteers can support you via video chat, phone, or even through a document drop-off arrangement. To find out more, please check out the CRA's Twitter account. Here are the 16 tax return programs certified by the CRA. As mentioned, some of these are free for use. Before we end our video today, we should talk about what you need to do after you've filed. Canadian tax law requires you to keep all the tax documents for at least 6 years. So in 2021, in addition to your 2020 tax returns, you should also have a record of your tax returns from 2015. However, it is often encouraged that you keep your records for longer. Another thing I would like to suggest is for you to register a My Account with the CRA. My Account allows you to check your tax return filing status, download your tax slips, set up direct deposits for refunds and refundable tax credits like GST, HST, and view your carry forward tuition amount, RRSP, and TFSA contribution limits. Please follow the link here to set up your My Account. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video helped you better understand some tax issues relevant to students. If you have any comments or questions, please send them to info@diversities.org. Thank you.